I never thought my life could change so dramatically in a single afternoon. For years, my wife Sophia and I had been trying to have a baby. The journey was filled with doctor appointments, disappointments, and tears. When we finally got the news that she was pregnant, I was overjoyed. I spent months preparing the nursery, reading parenting books, and imagining our future as a family. Then one day I noticed strange text messages on her phone. If you are going through something similar, let me know where you are watching from. Subscribe to this channel and remember that sometimes the hardest truths can lead to unexpected freedom. Sophia and I met in college. I was studying architectural engineering and she was pursuing a marketing degree. We were the couple everyone envied, young, ambitious, and deeply in love. After graduation, we moved to Seattle, got married, and started building our life together. The first few years were everything we had dreamed of. We traveled focused on our careers and enjoyed our time together, just the two of us. 3 years into our marriage, we decided it was time to start a family. We were financially stable, had purchased a beautiful home in a family-friendly neighborhood, and felt ready for the next chapter. Little did we know this decision would test our marriage in ways we never imagined. Month after month, we faced disappointment. Negative pregnancy tests became a regular heartbreak in our home. Sophia started charting her cycles, taking supplements, and we even tried some fertility treatments. The process was emotionally exhausting for both of us, but especially for Sophia. I noticed she became more withdrawn, often lost in her thoughts. At the time, I attributed it to the stress of our fertility struggles. It will happen when it is meant to happen, I would tell her, trying to ease the pressure we both felt. But inside, I worried too. What if we could never have children? Would our marriage survive that disappointment? Then, after almost 3 years of trying, the miracle happened. Sophia burst into our bedroom one morning, tears streaming down her face, holding a positive pregnancy test. I remember jumping out of bed and spinning her around, both of us laughing and crying at the same time. "We are going to be parents, Antoine," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with joy. "Can you believe it?" I threw myself completely into preparing for our baby. I spent weekends painting the nursery a soft mint green, assembling furniture, and researching the safest car seats. I downloaded pregnancy apps on my phone and read to Sophia from parenting books before bed. I attended every doctor appointment, treasuring the sound of our baby's heartbeat during ultrasounds. But as her pregnancy progressed, I began noticing subtle changes in Sophia. She started working late more often, claiming big projects needed her attention before maternity leave. She became oddly protective of her phone, taking it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. When I would suggest weekend brunches with our friends, she would make excuses to cancel. One evening, I planned a special dinner at home to celebrate hitting the second trimester. I cooked her favorite meal, bought flowers, and even purchased a tiny pair of baby shoes as a gift. Sophia came home almost 2 hours late, apologizing about a meeting that ran long. During dinner, she seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly under the table. "Is everything okay at work?" I asked, trying to reconnect with her. "Just busy," she replied vaguely. "You know how it is." A week later, we had dinner with our closest friends, Jake and Tara. The conversation naturally turned to our baby and future plans. I enthusiastically shared my ideas for family traditions I wanted to start and how I planned to take extended paternity leave. "Antoine is going to be the most devoted dad," Tara commented with a smile. I noticed Sophia shift uncomfortably in her seat, focusing intently on her plate. When Jake asked her how she was feeling about becoming a mother, she gave a brief, almost rehearsed response about being excited but nervous. Later that week, we went shopping for baby essentials. As we browsed through the store, Sophia constantly checked her phone, typing rapid responses to texts. When I asked who she was messaging so intently, she snapped that her team needed guidance on a project. The sharpness in her voice took me by surprise. The first major red flag came when I suggested we take a baby moon, a short vacation before the baby arrived. Many of our friends had done this, and I thought it would be a perfect opportunity for us to reconnect before our lives changed forever. "We cannot go to Hawaii right now, Antoine," she said firmly, her reaction disproportionate to my suggestion. "It does not have to be Hawaii," I replied, confused by her intensity. "It could be a weekend at that resort near Portland you always loved." "I do not want to travel at all," she insisted. "I have too much work, and I do not feel well enough for a trip." That night, as Sophia slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, trying to convince myself that her behavior was just pregnancy hormones and work stress. But deep down, a sense of unease was growing that I could not ignore much longer. Everything changed on a Thursday in April. I finished a project ahead of schedule and decided to surprise Sophia by coming home early. I stopped to buy her favorite flowers, purple tulips, and picked up takeout from the Thai restaurant she had been craving lately. I imagined her face lighting up when she saw me, perhaps followed by an evening reconnecting over dinner and planning for our baby. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed Sophia's car was there, which surprised me since she had mentioned having a client meeting that afternoon. The house was quiet when I entered, but then I heard her voice coming from upstairs. She was speaking in a hushed tone that immediately sent a chill through me. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, not intending to eavesdrop, but her words carried clearly. He does not suspect anything, she was saying, but we need to be more careful. I know. We will figure it out after. My heart began racing. There could be innocent explanations, I told myself. Perhaps it was work-related. Maybe she was planning a surprise for me. But the secretive tone, the words themselves, they awakened fears I had been pushing away. I quietly set down the flowers and food and went to the living room pretending to watch TV until I heard Sophia come downstairs. She seemed startled to see me. "Antoine, what are you doing home so early?" "Finished my project," I said, trying to sound casual. "Thought we could have dinner together." She kissed me on the cheek, but there was something mechanical about it. "That sounds nice. Let me shower first." As soon as I heard the water running, I did something I had never done before, something I had never thought I would do. I went to our bedroom where Sophia had left her phone on the nightstand. I stared at it, battling with my conscience. This was an invasion of privacy, a breach of trust. But then again, so was whatever she was hiding from me. With shaking hands, I picked up her phone. She had recently changed her password, but I had seen her enter it a few days ago. My stomach churned as the phone unlocked and I opened her messages. What I found devastated me. There were hundreds of messages between Sophia and someone named James, a colleague she had mentioned occasionally. The texts were intimate, romantic, explicit at times. They went back months, predating the pregnancy. "Miss you already. Last night was amazing. Cannot wait to see you tomorrow." But it was a more recent conversation that truly shattered my world. "James, what are we going to do about the baby, Sophia? I am not sure yet. Antoine is so excited." "James, is it definitely mine, Sophia? The timing makes sense, but I cannot be 100% sure." "James, we need to figure this out soon." "Sophia, I know. Let me handle Antoine. He trusts me completely." I felt physically ill, like the floor had disappeared beneath me. The baby, the child I had been preparing for, dreaming about loving already, might not be mine. And my wife, my partner of 8 years, had been lying to my face every single day. I sat there, phone in hand, texts blurring through my tears until the shower stopped. I placed the phone exactly where it had been and went downstairs. I needed to confront her, but I had to maintain some composure. Sophia came down wearing lounge clothes, her wet hair pulled back. She smiled at me, that same smile I had fallen in love with years ago, but now it seemed like a mask. "Did you get food?" she asked casually. "Sophia," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Who is James?" Her smile faltered for just a moment before she composed herself. "James, from the marketing team. What about him? Are you having an affair with him?" She laughed, but it sounded forced. "What? Where is this coming from? I saw your texts, Sophia." Her expression changed instantly, eyes widening then narrowing. "You went through my phone. How dare you invade my privacy like that? How dare I?" My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "You have been cheating on me. While we were trying for a baby, while I have been preparing for our child. You do not understand," she said, her tone shifting to defensive. "Things have not been good between us for a long time." "What are you talking about? We have been trying to start a family together. That was your dream more than mine," she shot back. The words hit me like a physical blow. "And the baby?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Is it even mine?" The question hung in the air between us. Her silence was answer enough, but what happened next shocked me even more. Sophia suddenly stepped forward and slapped me hard across the face. "How could you ask that?" she screamed. "How could you question our child?" I stood there, my cheek stinging, too stunned to speak. "Get out," she said, her voice ice cold. "Get out of this house right now. You are paranoid and ruining our family with your accusations." "Sophia, we need to talk about this." "No, I will not have this stress while I am pregnant. You need to leave. Now. Maybe in a few days when you have calmed down and are ready to apologize, we can talk." I felt like I was in some bizarre nightmare. My pregnant wife was kicking me out of our home after I discovered her affair. But the shock and confusion left me unable to argue. In a daze, I packed an overnight bag and left the sound of Sophia sobbing dramatically, following me out the door. I drove aimlessly for almost an hour before ending up at my best friend Michael's apartment. When he opened the door, one look at my face told him something was seriously wrong. "Antoine, what happened, man?" The words caught in my throat as the reality of the situation finally hit me full force. "Sophia, I finally managed. She has been cheating. The baby might not be mine, and somehow I am the one who had to leave." The next few days at Michael's apartment passed in a blur. I could barely eat or sleep. When I tried to close my eyes, I saw those text messages, heard Sophia's cold voice telling me to leave. The life I thought I had, the future I had planned, was shattered. Michael gave me space but made sure I ate something each day. "You need to talk to a lawyer," he urged on the third day. "Find out where you stand legally." I knew he was right, but taking that step meant accepting that my marriage might truly be over. Eventually, I made the call and scheduled a consultation with a family law attorney named Diana Jenkins. In cases like these, the first thing to establish is paternity. Diana advised during our meeting. "We need to know if this child is biologically yours before proceeding with any divorce action." The word divorce made my chest tighten, but I nodded. Diana explained the legal process for requesting a paternity test and what my options would be based on the results. "What about the house?" I asked. "Can she just kick me out like that?" "Legally, no," Diana explained. "Your name is on the deed. You have every right to be there. But sometimes a temporary separation can be advisable while emotions are running high." As I left the attorney's office, my phone buzzed with messages from Sophia's parents and sister. Somehow they had heard what happened. Obviously Sophia's version of events. Her mother's message accused me of abandoning her pregnant daughter. Her father demanded I man up and come home. Her sister called me selfish for causing Sophia stress during pregnancy. None of them mentioned the affair. Either they did not know or they did not care. I also received a call from my own parents who lived in Chicago. Apparently Sophia had contacted them too, telling them I was having a mental health crisis and had become paranoid about her fidelity. "Son, what is going on?" my father asked, concern evident in his voice. I broke down as I explained the truth, the humiliation of the situation washing over me. My parents were supportive but shocked. They offered to fly out, but I asked them to give me time to figure things out first. The next blow came when I learned Sophia had been lying about more than the affair. A colleague mentioned seeing her at a restaurant downtown on a day she had told me she had a doctor's appointment. She had been with a man the colleague did not recognize, almost certainly James. This prompted me to review our shared calendar where Sophia had dutifully recorded all her prenatal appointments. How many of these had actually been meetings with James? How many times had I called to check on her and the baby, after what I thought was a medical appointment, only to catch her fresh from her lover's arms? The thought made me physically ill. Then came the confrontation I later regretted. I tracked down James at the marketing agency where he and Sophia worked. He was leaving the building when I approached him. "Are you sleeping with my wife?" I demanded, not caring who heard. He looked startled, then composed himself. "Antoine, this is not the place. Do you think you might be the father of her baby?" His eyes darted around the parking lot. "Look, man, this is complicated. Sophia said you two were having problems long before what? Before you started sleeping with my pregnant wife. Before you potentially created a child she allowed me to believe was mine." James stepped back, hands raised, defensively. "She told me things were essentially over between you two, that you were staying together just until after the baby came." The blatant lie knocked the wind out of me. A security guard approached, asking if everything was okay. James used the interruption to escape to his car, leaving me standing there embarrassed and even more heartbroken. That evening, with Michael's encouragement, I contacted Diana again and authorized her to send a formal letter to Sophia requesting a paternity test. 3 days later, Sophia called me, livid. "A legal letter? Really, Antoine? You are threatening to take me to court while I am carrying our child." "Is it our child, Sophia?" I asked quietly. "I cannot believe you would do this to me," she continued, ignoring my question. "To us. After everything we have been through. The test is simple and safe," I said. "If I am the father as you claim, then proving it should not be a problem." She hung up on me, but the calls and texts continued over the next few days, alternating between anger accusations and tearful pleas. She claimed I was trying to abandon my responsibilities, that I never really wanted the baby, that I was using her mistake as an excuse to leave. Not once did she outright deny the affair or claim with certainty that the baby was mine. The situation became even more complicated when both our families became involved. My parents finally flew in from Chicago while Sophia's family rallied around her. There were tense phone calls and even an awkward encounter at a restaurant when my parents and I ran into Sophia with her mother. The worst moment came during a family dinner my parents arranged, hoping to discuss things calmly with Sophia and her parents. I reluctantly agreed to attend. Antoine has always been jealous of Sophia's success, her mother claimed across the table. Maybe this paranoia is coming from his own insecurities. I sat there in disbelief as they portrayed me as the villain, the unstable husband who abandoned his pregnant wife over unfounded suspicions. Finally, I could not take it anymore. I pulled out my phone, found screenshots I had taken of some of Sophia and James's messages, and placed the phone in the center of the table. "Is this unfounded?" I asked quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. Sophia's father picked up the phone first, his expression darkening as he read. He passed it to her mother, whose face crumpled. Sophia stared at her plate, saying nothing. "I think we should leave," my father finally said, placing a hand on my shoulder. This dinner was a mistake. 2 weeks after receiving the legal letter, Sophia finally agreed to the paternity test. We met at a medical office, not speaking beyond what was necessary. The procedure was quick, just a blood draw from Sophia and a cheek swab from me. We were told the results would take about a week. That week was the longest of my life. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office each night to avoid Michael's concerned looks. I started running every morning until my legs ached, trying to outpace my thoughts. I avoided calls from family and friends not ready to explain the situation or hear their opinions. The results came in an unmarked envelope. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my office building, staring at it for nearly an hour before finding the courage to open it. The clinical language was straightforward. The alleged father, Antoine Jackson, is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. It included a probability of paternity of 0%. I was not the father of Sophia's baby. The child I had already loved, already planned a future with, already sacrificed for, was not mine. Never had been. The morning after receiving the paternity test results, I called Diana Jenkins and instructed her to file for divorce immediately. There was no hesitation, no second thoughts. The results had severed the last thread of hope I had been clinging to. In those first few days, I moved through the world in a fog of pain. I went to work, responded to emails, attended meetings, but felt disconnected from everything. At night, in the privacy of Michael's guest room, I allowed myself to break down. I mourned not just the end of my marriage, but the loss of the child I had thought was mine and the future I had planned. But gradually something shifted inside me. The devastation began to harden into determination. I would not let this destroy me. I would rebuild my life one piece at a time. I found a therapist who specialized in trauma and betrayal. In those sessions, I began to process the layers of deception Sophia had created. With professional guidance, I started recognizing that this situation reflected her choices, not my worth. "You can allow yourself to feel the pain without drowning in it," my therapist advised. "Acknowledge it, experience it, but do not let it define your future." Meanwhile, Sophia's behavior took a dramatic turn. When she received the divorce papers, her hostile attitude transformed into desperate pleas for reconciliation. Suddenly, she was calling constantly, sending long emails about how sorry she was, how it had been just one mistake that she regretted with all her heart. "We can work through this, Antoine," she begged during one call. "For the sake of everything we built together. I made a terrible error in judgment, but it does not erase our history." I listened silently, then asked the question that had been burning inside me. "How long was it going on, Sophia?" The truth this time. Her hesitation told me everything. "About a year," she finally admitted. "A year." The affair had predated our successful pregnancy by months. All those fertility treatments, the emotional roller coaster of trying to conceive, the celebrations when we finally succeeded. She had been seeing James that entire time. "And James the first?" I asked. "What does he think about becoming a father?" Another telling pause. He has transferred to the Boston office. He says he is not ready for fatherhood." So that was it. James had abandoned her, and suddenly I was back in the picture as a potential savior, a provider for her and another man's child. "I am proceeding with the divorce, Sophia," I said firmly. This conversation is over. But she would not accept my decision. She began showing up at Michael's apartment visibly pregnant, now tears streaming down her face as she pleaded for another chance. She sent her family members to reason with me. She even had a mutual friend attempt to arrange a reconciliation dinner. The lowest point came when she appeared at my office one afternoon, creating a scene in the lobby. My colleagues watched uncomfortably as she sobbed about how much she needed me, how the baby needed a father. "The baby has a father," I said quietly. "He is just not stepping up." My resolve was tested again when she showed up at a family dinner at my parents' house. She had apparently called my mother, who, despite knowing the situation, still harbored hopes we might reconcile. I arrived to find Sophia already there making small talk with my father, as if nothing had happened. When Sophia's mother suggested I should be the bigger person and consider giving our marriage another chance for the sake of the innocent child, something in me finally snapped. "With all due respect," I said, standing up from the table, "I am done being manipulated. This child is not mine. The DNA test proved that. Sophia chose to have an affair. She chose to lie about it. Now she can live with those choices." I turned to my parents. "I love you both, but I cannot do this. I am leaving." That night, I made a decision that changed everything. I would not stay at Michael's apartment any longer. I would not keep hiding as if I were the one who had done something wrong. The next day, I found my own apartment. It was small but clean, with large windows that let in the morning light. I signed a 6-month lease on the spot. Moving into my own place was the first step in reclaiming my independence. I bought new furniture, not expensive, but mine alone. I arranged it exactly as I wanted. I hung artwork that spoke to me. For the first time in months, I felt a small sense of control returning. The divorce proceedings continued, revealing more unpleasant surprises. Sophia had accumulated significant credit card debt I knew nothing about. She had also been dipping into our savings, with several unexplained large withdrawals over the past year, likely financing outings with James that I had known nothing about. Through it all, she continued her campaign to change my mind. Her most manipulative move came when she left a sonogram picture taped to my apartment door with a handwritten note. "This baby will always be yours in my heart. We still have a chance to be a family." I removed the picture and note, took a deep breath, and called my therapist for an emergency session. I needed to reinforce my boundaries and resist the emotional manipulation. "She is using your original desire for fatherhood against you," my therapist pointed out. "Remember that genuine love and family are built on honesty and respect, neither of which she demonstrated." That night, I wrote Sophia an email, clear, firm, and final. "Sophia, I need you to stop contacting me except through our lawyers. The divorce will proceed. I wish you well with the birth of your child, but I will not be part of it. Please respect this boundary. Antoine." It was the hardest email I ever had to write, but also the most necessary. It marked the moment I truly chose myself and my future over the illusion of what I thought we had. A year has passed since that painful night when I discovered the messages on Sophia's phone. The divorce was finalized 4 months ago, and I am still discovering what it means to rebuild a life from the ground up. The early days of healing were the hardest. There were moments when the pain felt so intense, I wondered if I would ever feel normal again. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, at first things began to change. I started sleeping through the night again. Food regained its taste. I found myself laughing genuinely at a colleague's joke one afternoon and realized it was the first time I had laughed in months. My therapist helped me understand that healing is not linear. There are good days and bad days, steps forward, and occasional steps back. The key was not to expect perfection from myself or the process. "You did not break your trust, Antoine," she reminded me during one particularly difficult session. "You are not responsible for repairing what someone else damaged." Those words became a mantra on the days when self-doubt crept in, when I questioned if I could have done something differently to prevent what happened. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion that had been in discussion before the separation. The new role brought fresh challenges that occupied my mind and rebuilt my confidence. I reconnected with old friends who had faded into the background during my marriage. I even tried new hobbies, joining a local hiking group and taking guitar lessons, something I had always wanted to do. One unexpected positive change was my relationship with Michael, whose guest room had been my refuge during those first terrible weeks. Our friendship deepened through the crisis in ways I never anticipated. He saw me at my absolute worst and never judged, never offered platitudes, never tried to rush my healing. "Take all the time you need," he would say. This is your journey, not anyone else's. I also found support from unexpected sources. A colleague who had gone through a similar betrayal shared resources that helped him recover. My boss was surprisingly understanding about the days when I simply could not focus. Even Sophia's cousin Rachel reached out secretly to express her support, telling me that many in Sophia's family recognized the wrong she had done but felt obligated to stand by her. As for Sophia herself, I eventually heard through mutual friends that she gave birth to a healthy baby boy in August. James apparently returned to Seattle shortly before the birth, and they are attempting to build some kind of relationship. According to those same friends, it is not going well. He resents the responsibility thrust upon him, and she resents his reluctance. I feel no satisfaction in their struggles. In fact, I feel a strange kind of peace about it all. During one therapy session, I realized that our marriage had fundamental problems even before the infidelity. We had different values, different approaches to honesty, different visions for the future that we had never fully addressed. The affair and pregnancy were symptoms of deeper incompatibility, not the cause. 6 months after moving into my apartment, I accepted a work assignment that took me to Denver for 3 weeks. The change of scenery was exactly what I needed. Mountains instead of Seattle's coastline, new faces, new perspectives. During a company event there, I met Lindsay, a project manager from the Denver office. We talked for hours that night about everything except my divorce. She was intelligent, funny, and refreshingly direct. Before I left Colorado, we exchanged numbers and began texting occasionally. I do not know if anything will develop with Lindsay. I am not rushing into another relationship, but our conversations remind me that connection is still possible, that my capacity for trust has been wounded but not destroyed. Last month, I had an unexpected encounter. I was shopping at a grocery store when I turned the corner and came face to face with Sophia. She was holding her son, who looked to be about 4 months old. We stood there for a moment, both frozen in surprise. The baby stared at me with curious eyes. "Antoine," she said softly. "How are you?" "I am doing well," I replied, and realized with some surprise that it was true. "How about you, managing?" she said, shifting the baby to her other hip. "This is William." I nodded politely at the child, but maintained my distance. There was an awkward silence before she spoke again. "I am sorry," she said suddenly, "for everything. I know it does not change anything, but I need you to know that." For months, I had imagined what I would say if she ever apologized. I had rehearsed cutting remarks, eloquent speeches about betrayal and consequences. But standing there in the cereal aisle, all that fell away. "Thank you for saying that," I replied simply. "I wish you and William the best." I moved past them and continued my shopping. There was no dramatic closure, no emotional breakdown. Just a brief civil exchange between two people who had once shared everything and now were strangers again. That night I sat on the balcony of my apartment watching the sunset and reflected on everything that had happened. The pain that once felt unbearable had transformed into something else, not gone but changed. It had become part of my story without defining it. I have learned that sometimes the hardest experiences teach the most important lessons. I learned to trust my instincts even when doubting them would be easier. I learned that self-respect must come before trying to save a relationship. Most importantly, I learned that even when it feels like your life is shattered beyond repair, you can gather the pieces and create something new. Life rarely follows the path we imagine for ourselves. Sometimes the most painful detours lead us to where we are truly meant to be. I do not know exactly what my future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I am curious to find out. If you have ever experienced betrayal or faced a painful ending, know that healing is possible. It takes time, support, and a lot of inner work, but you can rebuild. What are some ways you have found to heal after betrayal? Share in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe and like this video. Your support helps others find these stories and realize they are not alone in their struggles. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is start again.